Hello everyone, I'm Yagi from Okinawa City Waterworks Bureau. I'm in charge of instrumentation. In this lecture, I'll introduce our management method of water supply facilities that utilizes instrumentation system. Now let's begin. First, let me explain what I mean by instrumentation. It is the use of instrument or equipment required for automatic operation and control of waterworks facilities. Such instrument and equipment are collectively known as instrumentation equipment. Our instrumentation equipment consists of measurement instruments such as level gauge, control instruments such as PLC, communication equipment such as telemeter, and information processor such as central monitor. Linking these equipment together enables remote monitoring and control. The purpose of installing instrumentation equipment is to achieve full facility automation and labor saving by automating the operation that used to be done manually. Automating complicated machine operation also ensures high precision control than manual operation. Instrumentation equipment is therefore indispensable for stable water supply. Now, we have 6 service reservoirs and 2 pumping stations that we centrally control with instrumentation system. Likewise, we also monitor our distribution blocks. Our instrumentation system can largely be classified into 3, namely central monitoring of distribution, reservoir, and pumping stations, monitoring the distribution reservoir and pumping stations with monitoring camera, and meter reading system for the distribution block. Developing these systems has greatly facilitated our work for safe and stable water supply. Now, let me talk about central monitoring of distribution reservoir and pumping stations. These 6 distribution reservoirs and 2 pumping stations are, with dedicated network, connected with the central monitoring room in the office for constant monitoring and measuring. What the instrumentation system automatically monitors at distribution reservoir are mainly water level, distributed amount, water pressure in distribution pipeline, and residual chlorine concentration. Meanwhile, at pumping stations, the system enables remote monitoring of pump operation status, direct and boosted distributed amount, and boosted water pressure. It can also remotely operate pumps. This is the actual screen of the monitoring system. It provides real-time data of each monitoring item like water level, distributed amount, and residual chlorine concentration. As you can see, those items are displayed together on the same screen for quick recognition. If abnormality occurs, email alert will be sent to cell phones of the staff in charge as well as maintenance contractor. We also introduced a mobile monitoring system in 2008, which enables us to check the same monitoring items on mobile PC browser, even being away from the central monitoring room in the evenings or on holidays. Such easy access to information enabled staff members in charge to monitor from home and helped ease their mind and the burden. In addition, as a measure to increase our water distribution facilities' resiliency against disaster, we have introduced emergency shut-off valve and temporary faucet. Disasters such as earthquake can cause a large-scale leakage and excessive flow. When it is detected by the monitoring system, emergency shut-off valve operates and suspends water distribution. Distribution reservoirs are designated as the place of refuge at times of disaster. With temporary faucets, we can distribute water stored in the reservoir to citizens. As you can see, while distribution reservoirs' basic function is to temporarily store purified water for stable supply, they can serve as a gigantic water storage to put limited water resource into effective use. Moreover, even when power outage causes communication equipment installed at distribution reservoirs to go down, we can bring a mobile telemeter to take over data communication until power is restored. Currently, we are considering of introducing mobile telemeters for our distribution block metering system at its renewal as well. At normal times, data from distribution reservoirs and pumping stations is taken at machine rooms and is transmitted through dedicated network to the central monitoring room to be monitored. Meanwhile, at times of emergency, monitoring can still be done with radio equipment installed at each facility. This method is available for all 6 distribution reservoirs and 2 pumping stations. Next, let me explain the use of a surveillance camera for distribution reservoirs and pumping stations. Surveillance cameras and infrared sensors are installed at these facilities, operating 24/7 surveillance. The sensor detects intruders like people, animals, etc., and the camera records the scene. Video footages captured by these cameras are stored for later retrieval for about 2 weeks. The purpose of installing the surveillance camera is to maintain the environment of distribution reservoirs and pumping stations area in proper condition to prevent water contamination and to guard the area against terrorist break-in. Fortunately, however, there has been no such critical incidents since its introduction. Now, let me talk about our distribution block metering system. Our distribution blocks are remotely monitored with the system, which transmits real-time data via mobile network to monitor the inflow to the block, as well as distributed amount. The system was introduced for early detection and repair of leakage, water pressure monitoring in the pipe network, and for using it to aid remote control of each pressure-reducing valve in the future. Once those goals are met, we will be able to ensure further stability and affordability of our service. The metering system receives pressure and flow data from measuring points every 5 seconds and automatically creates daily reports with hourly data. Staff members in charge check the report every morning to adjust pressure in distribution blocks and to check minimum night flow to determine if leak detection work is necessary. Regarding future steps, what we have in mind include establishment of microblocks, introducing ultrasonic flow meter, controlling pressure-reducing valves with distribution block metering system, wider use of telemeter pole and temporary faucet, integrating the distribution block metering system with GIS, and effective use of daily and monthly report data. Let me summarize this session in 3 points. First, distribution reservoir and pump station are constantly measured and monitored by the instrumentation system. When abnormality occurs, the system reports immediately. We will continue to incorporate new technology to improve resiliency against disasters. Second, the distribution reservoir and pumping stations are monitored for safety with surveillance cameras. Lastly, quick response was made possible by checking the minimum night flow and the water pressure of reducer valve every morning for large, medium, and small distribution blocks. This concludes the introduction of water supply facility management with instrumentation system. Thank you for your attention. Now, let's enter the central monitoring room and see actual monitoring screens. In the lecture part of this session, I showed you the general view, which is displayed here. Let's take a look at monitoring items one by one. In Okinawa City, there are 6 service reservoirs and 2 pumping stations. All data taken from these facilities are displayed on this monitor. As you can see, you can check water level, inflow rate to the reservoir, distribution rate from the reservoir, and residual chlorine concentration. Let's switch to another view. Let's take Yaeshima Service Reservoir, for example. There are 2 reservoirs there, and I will explain with the second one. Here are the monitoring items. Inflow pressure is currently 0.428 megapascals, and the constant flow valve is closed now. Inflow rate is 0. Water level is about 21.1 meters. And current distribution flow rate is about 85 cubic meters per hour. We can also see the operating status of emergency shut-off valve. As it is for emergency, it isn't in operation now. Lastly, here's the residual chlorine concentration. It's about 0.5 milligrams per liter now. This screen tells us current values of all monitoring items at this facility, and we can also check past data by switching to another view. This line graph shows the past trend of monitoring items. Current data is shown at the right end, and data from 24 hours before that is at the left end. The green line shows water level. We constantly monitor water level, and it is automatically controlled to be at the constant level. It is because if water level becomes too low, water pressure is also reduced, and it may cause low water flow issue for customers located at places of high elevation. The white line shows residual chlorine value. under the Water Supply Act, it has to be kept at higher than 0.1 milligrams per liter. So we make sure the measured value always exceeds the required value. Now it is about 0.6 milligrams per liter, which is good. The yellow line shows distribution flow rate. It shows the water consumption trend in a day. It is about 300 to 400 cubic meters at 3:20 p.m. As we can see, consumption peaks from 5 to 8 p.m. After that, it gradually decreases to a very low value past midnight. Then, in the following morning, it starts to increase once again, and the cycle goes on. The blue line shows flow rate of incoming water. We can see that the inflow is constant, and once the reservoir reaches its full capacity, inflow valve is closed to stop the inflow. Then, once water level goes down to a particular level, the inflow valve opens and resumes inflow till the water level reaches the predetermined value. The red line shows data from an accelerometer. It is installed to detect vibration in case of an earthquake. Since there hasn't been any earthquake recently, the value is 0. When an excessive increase in distribution flow rate or intense vibration is detected, emergency shut-off valve operates to stop water distribution. That's all for the central monitoring system. Next, let me explain the water distribution block metering system. This is the monitoring screen for the water distribution block metering system. There are 41 distribution blocks in the city, and all the monitoring items for each block can be checked on this screen. Monitoring items for block meters include water pressure, flow rate, and amount of inflow. Meanwhile, monitoring items for pressure-reducing valves include primary water pressure, which is pressure before it is reduced, secondary water pressure, which is pressure after it is reduced, flow rate, and amount of inflow. Let me show you a line graph for one of the pressure-reducing valves, for example. The blue line shows the primary water pressure. The orange line for the secondary water pressure, and the yellow line for the amount of inflow. Lastly, let me show you the monitor for surveillance cameras. There are 14 surveillance cameras in Okinawa City. They are installed at service reservoirs and pumping stations. These cameras constantly capture video recordings and have an alert function. If people or animals enter the facility premises, the video footage and time are tagged and saved to check whenever necessary. Video footages that are not tagged for checking are stored for 2 weeks. Today is January 29th, and the footage from 2 weeks ago, January 15th, can be retrieved like this. One way of utilizing the water distribution block metering systems is a detection of large-scale leaks. Let me explain how to interpret the graph to do so. This yellow line shows the amount of inflow. As you can see, it suddenly drops at around 10:40 and remains zero for some time. This tells us that there was a large-scale leak. After emergency repair was done, the amount of inflow went back to normal. Let me also show you the amount of inflow at ordinary times in the dotted yellow line for comparison. We can easily tell that there is a clear change in the amount when a leak happens. The blue line shows water pressure. As you can see, when there is a leak, it drops significantly. After emergency repair, it goes back to normal. This concludes the introduction of our central monitoring room. As you've seen, there are 3 systems monitored in this room, namely Central Monitoring System, Water Distribution Block Metering System, and Surveillance System. We check all these systems at our daily meetings and ensure safety of our water supply facilities.